Hey everybody, it's Bradley Farmer from Bradley Fine Line Design. Hey, thought I'd post a quick video. I've seen there's been a bunch online that I enjoy watching lately about what types of blades to use and how to hold a handle and hopefully how to eventually cut a straighter line than what they're doing to. So I think first and foremost is there's really no perfect blade. I think the one that you use that you feel comfortable with is probably going to be the best blade to stick with. But what I always encourage people to do is kind of step outside the box and try some other blades that are out there, because there may be some that will help you out, especially on some of the bodies where there's a little tighter areas to get into to cut that straight line or to cut that circle or whatever you need to cut. So there's a wide variety of blades that are out there. What I have is, here's the ones most common that I use. You got your XActo number 11. You got a DS cutter knife, which comes kind of cool with two different types of blades. It's got a 30-degree and also a 45-degree replacement blade there, you can see. And then also the XActo number 16. The other blades on the side up here are ones that you can pick up. They have a Teflon swivel blade in them. And the other far left one's like a little chisel, and I very rarely use those. You know, a lot of people ask how well they work. You're going to find out after time and practice that you can get either your number 11 or your 16 blade to work just as well. Even though these have Teflon on them, they still don't swivel and pivot as much as you think that they would. So I kind of stay away from those and don't use them a whole lot. The typical blade that I use mostly is your XActo number 16 blade. And what I've done is I kind of drawn the line on the table here to kind of represent the angle that you want to cut at. For everybody that uses a number 11 X-Acto blade to cut with, what you'll typically hear and you'll say is, man, if I take and I lay that knife all the way back, I can cut a straight line, and you can. That's kind of one of the reasons why I'm demonstrating this. This is the angle that you're probably going to get your best and your straightest cut line with, is angling the blade all the way back to where you're just resting on the very tip of that. When you start angling that on up is when that knife blade is going to start to skate on you a little bit. So the idea of the video is to show that you can basically represent that angle of cut with any one of these other different types of blades. What you have to do is you're holding it at a different angle. So I think sometimes what people run into is, even though you can cut a straight line with that number 11 blade, ideally you have to get that handle at that location there, that angle, to get the perfect cut. Not all the time you can do that. So what happens is when you get into tight areas, you now lose that ability to cut that perfectly straight line because you're restricted with your handle. Now, a lot of people they'll cut the handle off, which will help because it'll give you more room to get that angle inside of a body. But if you're, a 10th scale buggy body or some of the other bodies that are even smaller yet, it's hard to get into that with an angle, even with a handle cut. So try to look out and try one of these other blades here for an example, because you can see you're still going to get that same angle on that knife blade, but you can change the angle of your handle. So typically, like 95% of the cutting that I do is done with a number 16 blade, and you can see the different type of angle that you can hold that at and still get a straight line. So if you get into a tight area, you can take that handle and crank it all the way back down and still get a decent angle to get that cut. So the other 5% of my time, the knife that I'll use will probably be like one of the DS cutters here, where it's got a very similar tight blade to it, but it's going to be on a different angle. And really the only time that I'll use those if there's a tight angle in near on a windshield or kind of like a roof rail where it's hard to get into with your number 16 blade. Every now and then I'll use an 11 if it's just an extremely tight area where I just need to get in to use the very tip of it. But other than that, I don't use an 11. I've heard people they'll cut the tip of an 11 off. I've seen some people also they'll use a dull blade and they'll just take a little sanding stone to sharpen it, but they'll still stick with the 11 blade. So I think whatever you're comfortable using, go ahead and stick with it, but realize that there's other options out there, and you may find out that one of the other blades may give you a better cut, or it's going to help you out when you get to those certain bodies where you need to get that other blade to get in with an angle. So there's a lot of different blades out there. There's even more so than this that I've tried and used, but I kind of stick to these basically for cutting a straight line. So hopefully that'll help you out and show you the different types of angles and handles you can use. If you have any questions on any of the blades or what the knives are, please hit me up in a message and I'll get them right over to you. So hopefully I'll help you out. Thanks and have a good one.